SPD, Reckoning and Reform, is made possible with the support of the Gifford Foundation and the Pulitzer Center.
So, before I get Russell started, there's something that I want you to understand about tonight. This guy that you see on this tightrope, that's me. And during our presentation, you will, if you're watching with a critical eye, you will very quickly understand that I have three broad audiences, and I'm always trying to balance to stay up on that line.
Picture a big fella like myself on a tightrope. Number one, let's have that as the visual. And then I'm pulled in one direction by my appointing authority, Mayor Ben Walsh. He appointed me the job. And then the other side of that tightrope is the community. They're pulling in a certain direction on things that they expect of the chief. And then on the other side of that rope is the police department and my union, special interest folks. They're pulling me in a direction. At no point do you ever, as a chief, want to be at odds with two of the three.
He has to manage police reform and the operations of his department while still doing what the department was formed to do, protect the public. And that is a dance that continues to happen.
Now, the reason that I chose this image so that you will know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it is because everything that I do, I have to stay focused on one thing in order for me to survive in this environment. That line represents doing the right thing.
The thing that I have to focus on is doing the right thing. That's how I survive. Genuine, objective people, even if they disagree with you, even if they dislike you, they'll respect if they think that you're doing the right thing and you work from a good place. So I stay focused on the tightrope.
And if I can't make decisions and have the courage to do what I believe to be the right thing under those circumstances, I'm not fit to be your chief. You could have picked a lot of places to serve. You chose Syracuse.
You don't deserve to be here!
Police reform is not a moment in time.
Stand firmly for justice!
On our worst day, this is a noble profession.
One homicide is too many in this city.
People are running, and then you just hear gunshots.
There's a new day that's coming in the city of Syracuse.
Beyond paying for the teardown of the aging viaduct that splits Syracuse in half and replacing it with a community grid model, Biden is committing $20 billion to reconnect neighborhoods cut off by the transportation construction template of the 50s and 60s.
I was one of the first elected officials to say, let's take down 81. It has reached the end of its lifespan, so it's of real no value to us.
We have an opportunity. I mean, this is a big infrastructure project. It's going to be paid for by the federal government. Well, should be thinking about this major infrastructure investment as creating something that's grand, something that's structurally, aesthetically, a game stopper.
It presents an opportunity for us to rebuild the city. It gives us an opportunity for jobs, new housing, and it would begin to make the city, the city it can be.
With I-81 coming down and this new creation of the community grid that's being posed that is going to stitch the community back together, if there isn't major police reform, it's only going to cause more problems in that neighborhood, because you're going to actually have a neighborhood where there's going to be, hopefully, a very diverse and inclusive neighborhood. And just to see how the police would adjust to being responsible for patrolling an area that's not completely segregated would be an interesting take on how they would behave.
Our approach in negotiating the police contract was to use it as a mechanism to address changes that needed to be made within the police department.
We've increased the officers' salary and benefits so that we're competitive with our neighbors in central New York. We think that we've accomplished that. In exchange, the union agreed to a 5-year residency for newly hired employees.
We have not been able to keep up with the pace of people leaving the department through retirement. It was important that we use the contract as a way to retain good police officers. And we heard a lot about what the community wanted out of their police chief and out of their department. So that's why we incentivized things like learning new languages. That's why we invested through the contract in continuing education. Because again, the world changes, we need to make sure that we're changing with it. And the one thing that we heard more than anything is that people wanted police officers to live in the city.
The Common Council will hold a special meeting tomorrow, expected to vote on that highly debated Syracuse police contract. This comes after some members of the council disagreed over the proposed cost of the contract. All sides believe the tentative deal would make the police department more competitive, but some worry the city just can't afford it.
I can tell you this, that in my 12th month, because December the 3rd was a year for me, the practices that we have used in the past have gotten us into this position. And if we continue to practice what we've done, we're going to continue to get what we've gotten.
Regarding the police contract, it really felt like the mayor negotiated it by saying, we want to get some police residency and we don't care what it costs. And I think that's what really was the pushback from the council, is that there are costs to these things. And when you add up military benefit, education benefit, all these different things, it ends up being like an 11% raise for some of these officers. And those costs are real, right? And to the extent that we're spending all this money in our police department, it's things that we can't spend resources on fixing our roads or neighborhood development or all these other things that are true investments. So it's really a philosophical thing from the council to say, should we be spending this amount of money on our police force?
Here we are at a point in time where you all are now going to consider, are we at a point, and I call it an investment, where we are going to invest in the future of what our police force sounds like, looks like, lives. From as long as I've been here, our community has cried for residency. We're here.
Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 8A. It is local law that approves the money for the Police Benevolent Association contract. I'd like to introduce the law, but I would urge that people vote no on this item. In the simplest terms, we just don't have the money to pay for this contract. So with that, I introduce it and I urge everyone to vote against it.
Item 8A, please call the roll.
Yes, Madam President. Councilor Rudd.
No.
Councilor Bay.
No.
Councilor Green.
No.
Residency was one of the components of the negotiated contract that was presented to the council. Unfortunately, it wasn't passed. I don't think residency is an issue for either the council or for us. The issues around the contract really had to do with cost. And so now we're entering into arbitration, and we hope through that process to be able to maintain what we proposed.
I feel very optimistic about Syracuse and its future, including the police department. So the police department will have a significant role as to whether or not the city reaches its full potential. But I'm confident that we will certainly be able to improve upon where we sit today.
You're a culmination of all the good in this world. We're going to be accountable for our actions. We are true in our cause, and we will fight for all that is right, and we are ready. We're Class 20 of the Syracuse Regional Police Academy. Let's do this.
When you're working on the streets, it's a different ball game. The Academy taught us the basic and what we needed to do to be competent officers on the road. I think they did a fantastic job, but again, once you're on the road, there's no classroom, there's no other people. You have to learn quick on the streets. You know, you're not looking into a book.
It could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse than that, okay?
I don't even know how many times I've gone on any calls where I'm just prepared just because of even if it's like the little things, even like the scenario-based trainings that they gave us in the academy. And it's crazy to think about, because I remember in the academy, I'm like, 6 months, I don't even think that's enough. But it's just once you get out there, it clicks, just a snap of the fingers of, all right, I know what to do. I'm trained for this. We got this.
It's everything I would imagine it to be and more. And what I mean by more is that the power of discretion, thinking on the fly, and high stress situations. Us as police officers, we aren't Superwoman or Superman, but I feel as though everybody expects us to be that way. But you're also trying to respect people's freedom and uphold the law the best as we possibly can.
There's a lot of structure in the academy, right? So they have to be certain places at certain times. They're responsible for all these things along the way, and then they have to get up and they have to work out or they don't pass, all right? They come and they run with us and they do all the different things with us. And at the end of the academy, I like to tell them, I have a little gift for you. And here's the gift. You never needed us. They needed us for information, so we taught them skills. But as far as who they are, when they walk out of that academy, when they're holding their heads up high and they're so proud of themselves and their parents are proud of them, they did it all. They were just living in the box that they drew for themselves. We had to let them know that you could kick those walls down and become something else.
Well, a group of us had a person that was going to jump off of a bridge. And I guess you could say, we did try to guide them and help them. We don't want anybody to lose their life. But at the same time, I don't want to put my guard down. There are times where somebody's life is at stake, or through our training and experience, I think something bad is going to happen, or it's happening right in front of me, and you have to be the warrior. You have to be the person to get physical. I'm going to put my life first over everybody else's.
I believe that the guardian, mentality definitely is still intact, with a city that has pretty much high crime rate, guns and everything like that. Only because even though those things may happen, the community and the police, we work together, and we're definitely trying to bridge the gap more and more to protect the citizens, the buildings, the youth, and ourselves as well. So I feel like due to positive efforts, proactive efforts to bridge that gap, as well as taking the time to get to know everyone, yeah, that guardian mentality is definitely there for sure.
Standpoint, we are not able, the evidence base for so much of this is actually really weak.
Since June of 2017, I have been the administrator for the Citizens Review Board. The board's purpose is to provide an opportunity for citizens in the city of Syracuse who have an interaction with the Syracuse Police Department to have an opportunity to file a complaint. The highest level of complaints that the CRB gets is the demeanor during your interaction. That's our biggest complaint, and that has not really gone down. We were trying to figure out whether or not we were going to continue to subpoena officers to hearings. They have more of a warrior mentality than a guardian. I think that has a lot to do with training. I think that it has a lot to do with the heightened emotions that are surrounding police. The culture of the department created that separation between the community and the police department and created this us versus them mentality, and that has carried on. So the changes that are currently being addressed are providing us with more information than we did before. Before, we would get stuff like it was handled appropriately or case was closed, so we have been building on our relationship to create better transparency and accountability between the two departments so that we're building trust.
Syracuse police are working without a contract. Is that affecting morale? You're heading up negotiations. How confident are you about a settlement?
Christy, I've been with the department for nearly 7 years. I can assure you morale has never been this low. The work environment has never been more depressing. There are a number of contributing factors that have led to that work environment. but the lack of a contract is a major sticking point.
If you could raise your hand if you support requiring police officers to live in the city.
If I had more hands, I would.
Janet, if we amended state law, would you support this as well?
No, I want to make our city a place where people want to live, not where they're required to live.
Syracuse City Hall and the police union have a long overdue deal for a new contract after the Common Council didn't agree to what the mayor worked out with the officers. A state arbitrator got involved and made changes. In this deal, the arbitrator approved the requirement that new officers must live within city limits and approves pay increases for veteran cops to retain and attract experienced officers, as well as encourage more officers to seek leadership ranks.
If we can't reasonably compete with other law enforcement agencies in and around our area, it will be significantly detrimental to our city. And let's be honest, when you compare crime of the city of Syracuse in comparison to our county, towns and villages, there's no comparison to what we ask our officers to do in comparison to what these other communities do. So I want it to be on a level playing field with recruiting individuals interested in this profession. And I think this contract has given us that, and I do think it's worth it, although it certainly is not cheap, but I can tell you that the kind of work that we provide, I think that these officers have earned every dime of it.
6:30 years and now they're going inside the house or leaving in the vehicle.
The man with the gun was the one that was inside the house.
Get that on camera too.
Oh, I got it.
We end tonight with an extraordinary young police officer. He's determined to improve relations between cops and kids. And the best way to do that, he believes, is one-on-one.
I'm Officer Hanks. I work for the Syracuse Police Department. And if you haven't seen or know now, I'm offering a challenge. It's a one-on-one basketball game. First person to score wins. If I score on you, you got to give me 20 push-ups on demand right then and there in front of everybody on camera.
On camera?
If you score on me, which is possibly not ever going to happen, but if you score on me, I'll take you to the mall and I'll buy you whatever pair of sneakers you want.
Brandon Hanks, a young man I've known since he was 8 years old. He grew up right in the heart of the South Side, where things happen.
Officer Hanks grew up like a lot of kids he knew, fearful of the police.
The only time I ever really saw them in my neighborhood is when somebody was either going to jail or getting arrested or something like that.
He's a role model. You know, everybody looks up to him. I mean, even adults. I mean, he was on national news, but he's young, he's African American, he's a police officer, he's a college graduate, and that's what our kids need to see.
What color shoes you want? White, black, blue, red? Right now, the norm probably isn't, I gotta be a police officer, I wanna be a police officer, I wanna join law enforcement. The norm is, we probably shouldn't be around police officers. Well, I think what I'm doing right now is trying to change that narrative.
LA Laker Rajon Rondo is donating 25 pairs of sneakers for the Syracuse Police Basketball Challenge.
Hanks today honored with the Mayor's Achievement Medal.
The impact of Brandon Hanks has been that it has illuminated the many things that police officers do day in and day out that often go unknown by the public. And it was something that we very much so needed.
For him to be where he is amazing.
Officer Brandon Hanks just filed a claim saying he was denied a promotion to a specialty unit after a captain put in writing that Hanks was, quote, gang affiliated, a narcotics trafficker, and listens to, quote, rap music.
And what my department did was they casted me off as a gang member or a gang affiliate because I like to play basketball with kids and I'm involved in my community. One thing that I want to tell you guys here is don't let nobody tell you or pick on you or trick you out of your spot, okay? Be who you are, remain who you came from, and provide for your community.
We're banking on he's not going to be eligible to be the chief of police. He has 12 months to be certified through Department of Criminal Justice Services to complete physical training, physical assessment, and we don't think he's going to be capable of getting all of this done to be qualified come December.
Police Chief Kenton Buckner will remain chief, but as a civilian. Buckner didn't pass part of the physical test for police officer certification in New York, admitting he's unable to run a 1.5 miles in the required time.
I do not feel like that it impacts my ability to lead the department. The job that I did the 2 years while I was going through the certification process, I was able to do the job during that period. I was also the person that walked in and began making the changes and assessments that I began on day one, none of which required some of the things that are done in our certification process.
The union membership spoke and voiced their preference in the form of a election, and they did not re-elect Jeff Piedmont and elected Moran as the current president. What the chief is committed to is to maintain a relationship by which they don't have to agree, but by which they continue to come to the table.
First, I appreciate Jeff's tenure. I believe he was in the position about 26, 27 years. It is no question that we got off to a rocky start.
A big crowd lining the streets to watch the parade, but walking along the green-painted road, a much smaller group representing Syracuse police. Only around 20 officers marched this year. It's a much different number from the close to 100 in the past. Chief Kenton Buckner blames the lack of interest on internal issues and says it didn't come as a surprise. There's been a lack of support for the new chief by some officers who've expressed they feel disrespected by him.
As far as President Moran is concerned, we've had some disagreements about things that we've been able to handle and address behind closed doors. But overall, I would say that the relationship has been mutually respectful and productive.
Have you asked him yet if he'll walk with you in the next St. Patrick's Day parade?
I have not asked that question. One of the things about leadership, at times it can be a very lonely place. So if at the time of the St. Patrick's Day parade that they decide that they're not going to march with me, you can see that I have no problem marching with a few good friends that will march with me.
Chief Buckner was in our academy class, so you know, a lot of the senior officers say like a lot of things have changed, but we don't know any difference because we're new. We're coming in as he's changing things.
Every day is different. Morale, it's been like a little bit of a roller coaster. For me personally, I'm just so glad to be here, and I want to do my job, and I want to be good at my job.
Police Officer Shaquille Muhammad.
I do think that Buckner is a good face to change the department. I don't know what it's like to be in his shoes or to make certain decisions that he makes. For what I know, like I said, I've been on for almost 2 years now, and I feel like as far as being transparent and everything like that, he's definitely have been transparent.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m.
I watched it, and like most people, I was on edge. I did say publicly that it's not very good that we were sitting on the edge of our seats wondering what the outcome of that case was going to be, because when we watched what we watched, the fact that we would have doubt that someone would be held accountable for that. That's why you see people in the rage that you see them in. That's why you see people with this mistrust of the criminal justice system when they feel like that they're being oppressed, because too often they've watched similar videos and no one held accountable. I certainly believe that case resulted in a deposit of goodwill as it relates to trust in the criminal justice system.
It's definitely been a journey. You could tell people are a little worn down from what's been going on the past year or two. But in the end, Chief Buckner and everybody else, we just want to do the best we can, and we want to do it for everybody. So
it's difficult to say that Chief Buckner came in and he's changed the culture of the department. He has disciplined officers more, but as we know, it takes a long time for a wall to come down. So when you've been acting in a particular manner for years, decades, and things of that nature, that does not change in one day.
Kenton Buckner, in the role of police chief, has unequivocally fulfilled the role that the mayor I expected to be a change agent for the Syracuse Police Department and how we do business in the city of Syracuse.
You might be surprised that I don't lose a lot of sleep on the job because I do feel like I'm doing the right thing. You've chosen the right city. When you feel like that you're serving your purpose, what may be stressful to you or something that you can't stomach, that's a purpose for me, is more digestible because I truly feel like that I'm in my lane. And the reason that I've been able to reach the pinnacle of this profession is I actually love what I do for a living. Despite the frustrations and the stress and the things that I go through, I still love the work. And I've told this story many times. If it's true with the adage of 9 lives, and I've lost 8 of them, and I come back on my 9th, I would choose to be a police officer. If you have that kind of true, genuine love of what you're doing, you're probably going to be successful at it.
SPD, Reckoning and Reform, is made possible with the support of the Gifford Foundation and the Pulitzer Center.